I think there is maybe a world market for 5 computers, said Thomas Watson, the chairman of IBM in 1943. There's no reason why anyone would want a computer in their home, said Ken Olsen of Digital Equipment Corporation in 1977. Computers in the future may weigh no more than 5 tons, said Popular Mechanics in 1949. Television won't be able to hold on to any market it captures after the first 6 months, said Darryl Evzanik, head of 20th Century Fox in 1946. We don't like their sound and guitar music's on the way out anyway. Decca Recording Company rejecting the Beatles in 1962. Everything that can be invented has been invented. Charles H. Duell, Commissioner, U.S. Office of Patents, writing in 1899. I don't have to tell you tonight, city councillors, award winners, distinguished guests, that these people got it wrong. Big time. They spoke too soon because they weren't involved in shaping the future. They were surprised and overtaken by it. They were made, in a sense, redundant by their own ignorance. It was John F. Kennedy who reminded us that change is the law of life, that those who invest only in the past or the present are certain, he said, to miss the future. I don't know most of you here tonight, you don't know me. But there is one thing that is true of every man and woman and child here tonight, and that is this: none of us enjoy being ignored. We are all somehow genetically hardwired for influence, to be noticed, to be somebody, to leave our mark on the town, the city, the community, the world in which we live. Real influence, though, is not a product of how well we enjoy last year or how well we enjoy the present. Real influence, if we study history, is about how much we're willing to engage with the future. And in an age of 24/7 news coverage, a lot of our work is in the media, and I know that when you watch and listen to the media constantly, you can be forgiven for coming away thinking that the future is a scary place, a place of great fear. And it's not surprising with the kinds of changes that are going on in our world today, technologically, ethically, in business culture, in politics, and so on. But in the early part of this year, I interviewed a man who is now called Europe's #1 futurist. He was also recently named among the top 20 business thinkers in the world today. He lives here in London, not far from here. His name is Dr. Patrick Dixon, a medical doctor who spends 1/3 of his year flying around the world speaking to corporations like Microsoft and IBM about the future, and 2/3 of his year setting up AIDS hospices because he is a Christian and believes that's what Christians should do. And I asked him about people's fear of the future and the technology that's coming upon us. He said this: any technology can be raved about or feared. Technology is amoral. It's human choices that make the difference between it being a great world or a disaster. And he went on to make this great statement: either we shape the future or the future shapes us. We've honoured some honourable people here tonight. Do you agree? We have honoured some honourable people here tonight. But I have a question for you. What makes a person honourable? Some of you might say it's integrity, some a sense of duty, others it's selflessness and service. And all of those, I think you would agree, are true of the people who've won awards tonight. For me, though, the bottom line is this: an honourable person is one who's made a conscious choice to influence their environment more than it influences them. An honourable person is someone who is determined to change their world, no matter what the obstacles, more than their world changes them. Who's made a commitment to shape the future before someone else's vision of the future reshapes them. I think honourable people of all ages ask one question in their own way: what kind of world do I want to live in future? And what can I do now to set that in motion? I guarantee all those years ago, sir, when you started serving the Scout movement, you had no idea that you could possibly impact so many lives in such a short space of time. Honourable people ask the question: what world do I want to live in? What can I do now to set that in motion? I think it's worth us all reflecting on that tonight. What kind of city do we want to live in here in 10 years from now? What kind of educators do we want training our children? What kind of politicians do we want making policy that governs our lives? What kind of media outlets do we want speaking into our living rooms every night? What kind of attitudes to family and marriage do we want shaping the home What kind of city do we want to live in 10 years from now? And what will we do to set that in motion? Building cities of honor filled with honorable people means that we all must be involved in shaping the future around us. And above all, I suggest, we shape the future by investing in the generations that will carry the future on their shoulders. There are 3 generations in influence in the world right now. My generation, the ubiquitous baby boomers. We are the children of the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. We are the make love, not war, make babies, not bombs, peace, love, revolution, imagine all the people generation. But following us, there's the so-called Generation X, named after the book by Douglas Copeland. People today aged between mid-20s, mid-30s, into mid-40s. This generation was the generation we built on when we founded this thing called Youth Alive in our country, which in 10 years grew from 300 young people in my home city to over 60,000 around the country. Today it's well over 150,000 people working in schools, in universities, working with police groups, working with city councils to help young people find better alternatives for their future, a brighter tomorrow. We started working with this Generation X and found very early on that one of their favorite sayings was, "Get real." It's a generation that applauds authenticity, that loves reality. It says to us baby boomers, hey guys, we like your dream, but how are we going to make it happen? Let's talk pragmatism here. Let's talk strategy. A great generation. But I just want to bring before you yet another generation tonight. In sociology today, they are called the millennial generation. And I'm so pleased that we have honored a large percentage of millennials here tonight. People under the age in Britain today of about 24 or 25 years. Just this week we've been hearing again in our media about ASBOs, about youth gangs, about drugs, about rising teen pregnancy rates, and the fact that many Britons now fear their own young people. Yesterday the head of MI5 said that the threat of suicide bombers, mostly young people, is likely to be with us for at least a generation. And when you hear all that kind of thing, the picture looks bleak for our millennials. But I want to tell you tonight, if you didn't already know here in Bromley, that the mainstream of British millennials that I meet, the silent majority, are positive about the future and looking forward to big challenges. We need to balance today in our society a concern for minorities with a proactive engagement with the majority. Otherwise, we encourage a growing victim mentality in groups at the edge of society, and we lose the opportunity to bring out the best in the mainstream youth culture around about us. The millennial generation are the future of your city. And as millennials emerge into adulthood, our research and that of many other social researchers around the world has found that we can expect to see certain changes in cities. As this generation comes into adulthood and then positions of influence, we're going to see in cities like yours a much more energetic and proactive approach to solving community problems because, on the whole, and there are exceptions, millennials are much more optimistic than the 2 generations that have gone before them. We're going to see an aggressive push for free education because millennials are smart and they celebrate learning. We're going to see a less hierarchical approach to leadership because millennials are much more democratic. We're going to see different approaches to politics with more emphasis on projects than ideology because millennials are not institutional. We're going to see a greater emphasis on long-term causes than short-term projects because millennials are future-minded. I'm speaking generally. We're going to see a greater involvement in global issues, and I'm thankful for that because millennials feel that they are citizens not just of a city or a nation, but of the world. We're going to see a greater respect for public officers because millennials show signs of being much more respectful of leadership. We're going to see great leaps forward in the development of technology because millennials see technology as a positive force for change. And we're going to see a desire for involvement with ownership because millennials like to be on the team. This is probably the biggest characteristic of the generation arising into adulthood now. It's a generation of team players. It's the we generation. It's the Wikipedia generation where everybody gets to contribute. The YouTube generation where everybody gets to be heard. It's the my space generation, where my life is shared with you. It's a we generation, but teams need captains. And the millennial generation is going to be looking to its peers to find people who can head up great projects. You and I, ladies and gentlemen, can shape the future and help build honourable cities, communities where honourable people flourish. If we will raise up this millennial generation now, not in 5, not in 10, not in 15 years, if we will give opportunities now for this great generation of young people. Leadership, we all know here tonight, is not about organizations. You don't really lead organizations. Leadership is about ideas and cultures. When Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream," he was announcing a great idea and a new kind of culture, a new sense of what is good and right and acceptable in the world. We need to build, or help millennials build, a positive culture in cities like this one. To paraphrase Abraham Lincoln, the culture of the schoolroom in one generation will be the culture of government in the next. We need to foster an atmosphere around young people where success is normal. That's why this is so good tonight. Because it makes it look like excellence is something we can all aspire to. It's not just for the people on the front covers of Hello and Time magazines. I was in Amsterdam a couple of years ago speaking at the largest conference of any kind in that country. 30,000 people come together every year for this event. They picked me up at the airport to take me to the main venue to speak. And my driver said to me as I got in the car, "If you were just 15 minutes late, Mal, we would have had a police escort to take us to this session tonight." And I said, "Why didn't you tell me? I could have waited 15 more minutes. I would have gladly sat there and had a cappuccino and watched my bags go round and round and round. I'd do anything for once in my life to have a police escort, to feel like Schwarzenegger does when he comes to town." Did I speak well that night? I think so. Did I try even harder than normal? Yes, I did. Why? Because I was surrounded with a culture of excellence, a culture where success was expected of me and where I was determined to meet the standard. I'm so pleased we're doing this today on the outskirts of the great city of London. Because I come from Australia, I travel the world constantly, but you know, I find so much mediocrity in your great country and so much acceptance of the average. This is a little challenge, if you'll allow me tonight. And yet here in this room tonight are people who have not accepted the average. I look at that little girl and I say, here's a little girl that has not accepted what could be in the negative opinions of some. She is determined to rise above that, even at such a young age. That is laudable. That is something we should see right through our communities, in hotels, in airports, in shopping centres. We've honoured some people who work in the service industry tonight. I applaud you because you're setting a new trend. We need to applaud the excellent, the well done. We need to set a higher standard of expectation for these millennials. In an age where media is only interested in ASBOs and teen pregnancies, we need to show that we expect the best of this millennial generation. After 30 years of working in one level or another with young people, it makes me a little angry when the government of Britain decides just the other day, for the first time, that it's actually going to encourage young people to put off sexual intimacy for a few more years until they're ready for it. And they only do it after they've tried everything else. It's almost like we're saying to our kids, you know, you'll never have the willpower to say no to sex for a while just because your seniors haven't been real good at it. We need to set a high bar of expectation for our millennial kids. If we set a high expectation, I am convinced from experience they will try to match it every time. We need to encourage the millennials to relate their future goals to present tense realities. I've had the privilege of seeing 9 books published, but my first book was written when I was in the 5th grade. My teacher, Miss Page. I want to thank the school teachers and principals that are here tonight. We honoured one of them. What a great job you do in shaping our lives. I was in my 10th or 11th year of life when a teacher said to me in private, "Mal, I think you've got a gift with words. Would you mind writing a book for me? You write it, I'll type it, and then maybe we'll read it to the class." I was scared, exhilarated, excited all at the same time. But I went home every day from school with a different vision of my future from that point on. She gave me what the psychologists call a new gestalt, a new vision of what my future could be in the present. We need to do that. We need community groups, churches, that will train teachers to teach before they're ready to go to teachers' college. That will train politicians to be politicians before they're even old enough to study political science. What a great city it would be. We need also, though, to help our millennials appreciate ideas. Culture, ideas. A respect for ideas above celebrity. If you think reality TV is reality, you need to get out of the house more often. But we have a culture in which, we have a whole industry devoted to instant celebrity. And I know a lot of it's just good fun, and it is. It's just a giggle sometimes. But if we're not careful, we're in danger of turning a generation that shows so much promise into a bunch of people who are happy at being someone else. A few years ago, I stood on a stage in a big event with thousands of people with a young man who was paid at that time to be Michael Jackson's #1 double in Europe. He was paid to dress like Michael, make up like Michael, mime Michael's songs so that he could be Michael's stand-in at any time of the day or night. He said to me, "Mal, I was 19 years of age. I was living all my dreams. I was hanging out with Diana Ross and flying Learjets. But as I washed the makeup off my face one evening, I just began to weep like a child." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I realized for the first time I was happier being someone else." We need to encourage in our millennials an attitude that you don't have to be a celebrity to be celebrated. And you don't have to achieve notoriety to lead a notable life. Most of the people we awarded tonight are not featured on Channel 4 award shows. But we are so grateful to you, and we want you to know we celebrate you. We need to teach the millennial generation methods for massaging ideas, skills of creative thinking, the importance of strategy, not just plans, the importance of risk in realizing ideas. And here's the last one. We need to encourage our millennials to see the importance of ideals over ideas. If you'll allow me, we live in an age of postmodern political correctness that says all ideas of truth are equally true. The will of the majority represents truth. The path of least resistance is the right path. We'll all be secure if we just do what everybody else does, if we all hold the same opinion. But political correctness, ladies and gentlemen, buries young reformers before they are born, because it tries to dull any sharp edge, to prevent any dissenting voice from being heard. And I think we are finding today in our society that political correctness confuses issues and makes social cohesion even harder to achieve. We are not children of nothing. We have inherited a set of ideals and values which have not only shaped our culture but made it strong and attractive to people from outside. In tolerating everything, sometimes we're in danger of standing for nothing. General Sir Richard Dannett, head of the British Army, was only half quoted in the media, for he went on to talk about our spiritual values as a nation. He said there's a moral and spiritual vacuum in this country. Our society has always been embedded in Christian values. What am I suggesting tonight? Simply this. Worthwhile ideas are always promoting higher spiritual ideals. They always reflect our deepest held beliefs. In the city of Washington, 1994, all of the Washington elite gathered, the president, the vice president, their wives, hundreds of the world's media and many distinguished guests, to hear an address by a diminutive 4'6" Albanian nun who couldn't even be seen over the podium. She's so small. She spoke way too long. She spoke about things they didn't really want to hear. She spoke against abortion, contraception, spoke for the poor. And when she finally finished in her quiet little voice and went to sit down, they stood as one person and gave her one of the longest ovations in Washington's history. Were they applauding Mother Teresa's views? No, not really. They were applauding her moral right to have those strong views. We need people like that in this community today. Do you agree? We need young men and women raised up to know that they have a heritage, they have values, they have something spiritually to build on. We need to stop apologizing for ideals that have made our culture strong and attractive. And I'll leave you with this immortal quote from James Freeman Clarke. A politician thinks of the next election, but a statesman of the next generation. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm honoured to be with you, and thank you especially to all those people that are doing such a brilliant job, especially with the next generation in this city. Thank you.